everyone, and welcome to Change the Culture, a podcast dedicated to reducing and preventing interpersonal violence through empowerment self-defense. Studies have shown that 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men, and 1 in 5 children experience interpersonal violence in their lifetime. Isolation caused by the pandemic has increased incidence of domestic violence by more than 30%, and this is why we're here. My name is Annie Orenstein. I am your host of the Change the Culture podcast at My Power and producer of My Power Casts. My Power is a social tech startup dedicated to reducing and preventing interpersonal violence through technology, education, and community. We are here to speak to individuals and professionals committed to preventing and ending interpersonal violence around the world. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to meet you.
Welcome to our guest, Nicole Snell. Nicole Snell is an award-winning international speaker, facilitator, and self-defense expert specializing in sexual assault prevention education, gender-based violence prevention, and empowerment. She's the CEO of Girls Fight Back, founder of Outdoor Defense, lead instructor with both Impact Personal Safety and Impact Global. Nicole has facilitated sexual assault prevention workshops at over 90 military installations worldwide and speaks to gender-inclusive groups at colleges, high schools, Fortune 500 companies, corporations, the U.S. military, outdoor groups, women's retreats, and more, both domestically and abroad. Nicole is an NACP Credentialed Victim Advocate and has been a guest on over 30 podcasts. She's a passionate solo traveler, outdoors enthusiast, and is an adventure leader for Black Girls Trekkin. Nicole is committed to ending violence in all of its forms and strives to empower people with the skills to live without limits. Thank you again for being on the show, Nicole. Welcome to Change the Culture, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to meet you, and it is great to be here, so thank you.
Wonderful. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you live now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a very small military town in Southern California called 29 Palms. My dad is a retired Marine, and I was born on the Marine base there and lived my whole life from birth to high school graduation in this very small town, this very small desert town. And because there wasn't much to do out there, I really found my passion for nature and for the outdoors from the time that, from the youngest time that I can remember. I was out in the front yard playing in the dirt or trying to catch lizards or fascinated with rocks. And that fascination still continues to this day. I love shiny rocks and crystals and, anything that looks interesting, unique, petrified wood, all of it. I'm just so fascinated by things, and I love discovery. I was always a curious kid, and that never faded. And so I did a lot in the outdoors. I found an appreciation for the beautiful sunsets and the sunrises that turn the mountains purple, and being able to go outside and breathe the fresh air. And when I got old enough to go on walks by myself, I would go and explore the washes near my house, and did a plant collection in high school. And just really being outside was a way for me to experience freedom and for me to experience connectedness. I felt more connected to myself and to the world when I was outdoors. And for me as a kid, the outdoors was what was actually safe for me. So getting out of the house, getting outside was where I could feel like relaxed, and I could pursue these passions of, what's this plant over here, and what's this, and just that wanting to discover, right? That passion for discovery. And so I used my school smarts to get out of my small city. So I graduated as valedictorian from my high school and got a full 4-year scholarship to Cal State Long Beach, where I graduated in 4 years as summa cum laude with a BA in speech communication. And I'm happy to say that I'm actually able to use my degree in my career now, which not everybody can say. But yeah, once I moved out and, went to college, and now I was in a bigger city with more access to more activities, I was able to start horseback riding and start ice skating and going on hikes to different areas. And one of my first jobs out of college was working in the TV production industry. And so I was traveling and got to travel with my crew. And then I started traveling solo. I remember my first solo trip. we were in Germany filming for a car show. We're doing a speed channel test drive episode. We were in Germany in Wiesbaden and Nuremberg. And when I was, prepping the trip, I said, oh, Italy's just right there. It's so close. Maybe after the trip, I'll just go to Italy, go to Rome. I've always wanted to see Rome. And that's exactly what I did. So I booked my trip for after the show and went, and that was my first international solo trip. And I just fell in love. I just fell in love with the fact that I could wake up when I wanted and go wherever I wanted and see wherever I wanted and change my plans on the fly and make last minute decisions or spend longer at a place than maybe I was expecting. It was just, again, that freedom and that ability of just knowing that I could do whatever I wanted, that I was limitless. And it just ignited that passion of me to travel solo. And so I started doing more of that. And I've always been hiking solo, but I started hiking longer trails solo. And yeah, just the snowball of just being curious and wanting to discover and wanting to see as much of the world as I can just continues to grow. It hasn't faded. That passion in me has not faded. I dare say it's gotten stronger as I've gotten older and more experienced.
I can imagine, because it's so inspiring to see places and to meet people from around the world. And it's so expansive, and there are these wonderful countries. They're so breathtaking, and there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn, as I'm learning from you through your experiences, and our listeners get to learn through your experiences. And here today, as we talk about empowerment, self-defense, and we talk about changing the culture of violence, you yourself got into it, got traveled, and also travel for that purpose as well, right? Besides for your production history and what you did as a producer, but you've had the privilege to reach audiences and to reach out to people around the world through ESC. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in TV production for about 12 years and did a lot of work, within the US and also, in other countries filming, and did a lot of work with car shows, which was so much fun. Like, I don't know if you've ever been on a racetrack, but that was my first time being on a racetrack, was working for the Speed Channel show and getting to be driven around a racetrack at full speed with a professional driver is pretty amazing.
Wow.
So I got to do that in several places in the US and around the world. So that was so much fun. And then I got to a point in my career where I figured I was at the point where, there's a progression, you start at here and then you slowly work your way up to different positions. And I was at a point where I had a job where I had an office. I was basically an executive at a production company. And, I just thought, okay, well, this is going to be the start of the rest of my career. And what ended up happening is our department got laid off. And right around that time was when I was contacted by a group I worked with in college that did domestic violence prevention workshops. And they said, hey, the United States Navy wants us to start doing this for their personnel. Would you be interested in working with us again? Because I was a facilitator for them. And I said, oh, I would really love to, but, I have this full-time job and, I'll do as much as I can. And then within a few months, I found out that we were being laid off. We were able to finish the project we were on. And when the project ended was right when this military contract with the Navy started. And so that's how I got into, that's what switched the career. And it was really scary because, I had been working in this career for 12 years and I had my contacts and I, knew all the people and, it was a community, and to just all of a sudden stop. But I had been feeling like I wanted to do something more. I had been feeling like I wanted to do more for women, more for Black women. I woke up one day and I said, well, when I wake up in the morning, what am I first? I'm a Black woman first, before anything else, before any of the other intersections of my identity. I wake up and I'm a Black woman. So what can I be doing to help Black women and women in general? And I wasn't sure what the answer was. And then this opportunity came along and I said, oh, this is great. And what's interesting is that when I was working with the military, we're primarily working with men, because that is the majority of what makes up the armed forces in the United States. So we're going and we're doing these presentations that were, targeting, they were aimed at everybody, but we ended up mostly talking to men, which is a very important part of the the solving the violence puzzle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To solve violence, it's going to take so many different people working in many different areas.
Mhm.
And so working with this organization, I got introduced to Girls Fight Back.
Wow.
And I looked at their website and it said they teach self-defense to women and girls in colleges and high schools. And I said, what? This is a
Wow.
thing that you can do? I had no idea that type of job even existed. And so I emailed the owner and I asked for a job. And they
Just like
did not
that.
have a job opening right away. Yeah, I was like, I want this, I'm going to ask for it. And that's really been the, if I could give one piece of advice to any new entrepreneur or someone in college or someone in high school and they just want some like career advice, ask for what you want. Always ask for what you want, because people might not know what you're interested in, or that was something that you wanted in the first place. Ask, because if the answer is no, at least you know. But if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So I asked for a job.
I have to jump right in there. That's amazing advice, first of all. And I'm a true believer in that, and letting people know and saying things out loud, and just communicating, especially to your inner core, to your family, to your loved ones, to your first circle, to your network, is just having the courage to dream, but also taking another level, which is having the courage to express that dream out loud. So
Yes.
that's perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, no one ever told me that. I just kind of figured it out, right? So now I can hopefully help someone else not have to figure it out. Now you know, just ask for what you want. So they had a job opening 3 months after I asked for a speaker. And I got trained to be a speaker. And part of the training was to take a 20-hour full force self-defense class through Impact Personal Safety.
Oh,
And I took the class, and guess what? Decided I wanted to teach this too. And so I emailed the CEO of Impact, which is Lisa Gata, and said, Lisa, I would love to be an instructor. How does this work? And I started the process as an assistant. So I was doing all these 3 things simultaneously. I was working with the company that was doing work with the military, and I was doing college events with Girls Fight Back, and I was learning and assisting classes with Impact Personal Safety. Eventually got my instructor certification. And then, about 5 years into this, I decided I really wanted to focus more on Girls Fight Back and the self-defense and the empowerment aspect of it. And I started working with the owner at the time of doing, expanding our programming and teaching not just at colleges, but also in corporations and different other types of communities. And then what happened is in 2019, at the end of 2019, the owner of the company told me that she was selling the company. And I was like, oh, okay, that's, I understand that's, she's moving on and doing something else with her life. And I remember I was just sitting there one weekend, like maybe a couple weeks after she told me that she was selling. And I thought to myself, I go, I wonder if she would sell it to me. And so I sent her an email and I said, so I was just wondering, would you think about selling the company to me? And let me just tell you right now, Annie, I've never in my life wanted to own a company. I never wanted to be a CEO. I never wanted to start my own business. That was never something that was on my vision board, so to speak. But I knew that I loved speaking. I knew I loved empowering women, and I loved being able to reach people from other communities. I loved that I felt like I was making a difference. It was very rewarding. And so it just felt right. And I figured that I would just figure it out. There's enough people in my life that I could reach out to for help, that I wouldn't be just on this journey by myself. And she wrote back and she said, yeah, I didn't think you wanted it. And I said, I didn't know either until this weekend when I was thinking.
And I think that's people usually say, where there's a will, there's a way. The will is the why, right?
Yeah.
Where there's the why, we have that why, the passion that was ignited inside you, and you knew that this had to keep going. And and something that it took courage, but you said, let's jump in, and you took a risk. And I understand that Girls Fight Back started in 2001, and it's over 20 years now. And you're doing incredible things. You can share with our listeners about the programs that you offer through them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like you said, Girls Fight Back was actually founded in 2001 by a woman named Erin Weed, and it was in honor of her friend Shannon McNamara, who was murdered in her off-campus apartment. And
Mhm.
Erin was so moved and inspired by how hard Shannon fought that she developed the Girls Fight Back program, because the women in the community and in the college were all very scared after what had happened. And she didn't want them to walk around living in fear. And so she wanted to give them skills and strategies so that they could still feel confident going out and living their lives without feeling like they have to, hide in their houses or never go out and do anything on their own again. And so that's how the program started. And also
Wow.
the point of Girls Fight Back is to help keep Shannon's memory alive. Like, that's a
Mhm.
promise that Erin made to Shannon's mom, and it's a promise that I have continued with Shannon's mom, that I'm going to keep Shannon's memory alive. She's never going to be forgotten. And because of her legacy, we've trained and we've educated more than 1 million people around the world since 2001.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How does something an organization like that reach 1 million people? That's wow.
Yeah,
Impressive.
it's pretty amazing. And so what I do is I go and I deliver 75-minute to 90-minute keynotes, workshops, seminars to organizations around the world. Since COVID, I took over the company basically during COVID and had to figure out how
Wow.
to make my presentations virtual while also keeping the interactive nature of it. And I'm
Mhm.
grateful to say that I was able to make that work.
Of
And
course.
so I train organizations, and I can teach anyone of any group size, but I'm mostly going out and doing larger group sizes. I'm speaking to an entire incoming freshman class at a college. I am speaking to an entire department at a company, things like that. So I'm able to
Mhm.
get a lot of people some really core, basic, practical information in a short amount of time. That way they can then take that and start applying that to their lives right away. And then I also encourage them to follow up with a full force class if they have something that's in their area, so that they can get that actual physical practice as well. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, there's really no limit to the audiences I can speak to, because safety and empowerment and awareness and intuition apply to everything. I speak to the healthcare industry, I speak to colleges, high schools, women's retreats, solo travel groups. I work with organizations who are trying to encourage more assertive communication and boundary setting in their office. So I work with HR departments, I work with law
Wow.
offices, I work with you name it, and that group can probably benefit from a Girls Fight Back program. And so I've developed several programs. I think there's like 7 or 8 that I have now that can be also customized depending on what the group wants, like what their core message needs to be, what their core focus is, what the problem is that they're experiencing within their organization that they want to address. And so I've created programs to address that. And can I tell you about my favorite one to do?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
I'm hiking solo. That's the one that I created based on my series, my outdoor defense YouTube series, which
Right.
is about
Right.
teaching people how to feel safe and confident going in the outdoor solo, because that's such a core part of who I am. I am going to go hike solo and camp solo till the day that I can no longer set up my own tent. And then I'll
But
probably rent an RV.
don't people say, Nicole, could I go with you on your trip? Can I travel with
All
you,
the time.
Nicole?
Yeah, all the time. Can I go with you? And I'm like, sure. Like I go with people, and I'm a hike leader for Black Girls Trekkin. And so we do group trips and things like that. And sometimes
Wow.
some of the leaders will go and do our own trips. So I absolutely do hike and camp and travel with other folks, but I also
Wow.
really love doing it by myself. That's my meditation time. That's
Oh,
my time to just,
incredible.
you
Wait,
know,
so that's amazing. And I want to hear more about your outdoor trekking. And I just want to ask you before we get to that, um, is if you can share with our listeners of Change the Culture, 3 things that you're like, that you find that are the most important points that you want your students to walk away with from your seminar.
yeah, I'd say the number one most important thing I want people to walk away from my seminars is that you are worth fighting for. I mean,
Mm,
really, that's the core of it. It's undoing all of the social conditioning that tells people, women especially, femme, people who identify as women, or if someone, even if they're a non-binary individual, if they're presenting feminine for that day or whatever, someone is going to apply those societal stereotypes based on how somebody looks, right? Whether that's how they
mhm.
actually identify or not. And there's so much social conditioning about how weak women are and how incapable we are of protecting ourselves, and how, oh, we need someone else to look after us for us. It's like treating us like children. that we are so weak and helpless, that we always need somebody else to protect us, and there's absolutely nothing we can do. And those are lies. And we break those all down in my seminar. And if they can walk away at least knowing that, at least having that knowledge that you are worth fighting for, and you have everything you need on your body right now to be able to protect yourself, that is life changing. So that's the first one. The second thing is, I always encourage people to trust their intuition, because we all have it, but we, again, have been socialized out of using it, accepting the feelings when we get them, and talking ourselves out of them. So that's another societal stereotype that I try to break down. And the third thing that I want people to walk away with knowing is, I mean, I guess I kind of said this in the first one, but that your body is a weapon. That your body is a weapon. Your voice, your brain, you carry these things around with you. You know, every part of your body that you are able to use can be used to help protect yourself. And that knowledge alone can just help us feel more confident in our options.
Wow. Wow, absolutely. And this is very important for each of us, women, or however we identify, to go out and to know that we can also protect ourselves. We're individuals. We don't always have to. We can also ask for help. It's not a weakness to ask for help.
No.
But we can learn the tools to help ourselves, and are helping ourselves first, and knowing how, you know, which situations that we're in, and what we can do in certain situations, and how we can navigate these situations on our own, which leads us right into your outdoor defense YouTube series. I got the chance to check it out before I interviewed today, and they're wonderful. The series is just incredible. And I've never trekked by myself, and it's something that I mean, I don't trek so much in general, but I am inspired to do so now, to start up just getting out into nature, because obviously we've become a people, instead of people of the book, let's say, we're people of screens, and we got to get into nature. We got to cleanse our system through breathing in the air and seeing God's world. So tell us about the series. Tell us about your outdoor defense YouTube series, and how many episodes you have.
Yeah, so Outdoor Defense, I started the series in 2019, and the purpose is to empower solo hikers, solo campers, and solo adventurers with simple and practical skills, self-defense skills, that they can use to feel confident going into the outdoors. And that this series came about, I've had friends and family tell me for years that I should do something with the outdoors and self-defense, because those are the two things that I'm really most passionate about. And I just felt like, I mean, honestly, I just felt like nobody would care. I just thought nobody would watch this. This is not something that anyone's gonna resonate with. I'm just not gonna do it. And then in 2019, I had a friend just give me the final push, and just the extra little motivational kick I needed to just do it. And so I just did it. I just started the series, and I'm on season 3 now. And I just wrapped season 3, actually. The season 3 finale just aired on October 4th. So now I have 60 episodes of Outdoor Defense that are all available for free on YouTube. Most episodes are less than 3 minutes. There's a couple that are a little longer. And it is a collaboration between my company, Girls Fight Back, and Impact Personal Safety, because I sometimes some of our one of our padded instructors, Dawn, has come and been a guest on some of my podcast. Dawn has come and been a guest on some of my episodes, so that we've been able to demonstrate some of the actual physical strategies. And I fight on the trail with a backpack on, very realistic scenario, to show people that this is possible, that you can protect yourself. It's one thing to see it, in a room with mats, and it's quite another to see it actually being used, and to see you can actually do this. Right. And I think that's really important, because there's so many people that continue to this day to try to tell me, oh, it's not safe for women to hike by yourself, and you're looking for trouble. And no, I'm not going to let someone else's fears or perceptions or stereotypes about what I'm capable of to make my decisions for me. And my series isn't about telling people you should go hike solo. It's for those people who want to, or are curious about it, or it's for those people that have this fear, and that fear is holding them back. And the series is designed to help people alleviate that fear, and to just give you some encouragement. And the skills that I teach can be applied to everyday life, not just on the trail. And that's what I do.
Wow. So Nicole, can you share with us a few misconceptions that people have when traveling alone and how people can stay safe when traveling alone? Maybe just a few tidbits that we can
Yeah.
take
So,
away.
yeah, one of the main misconceptions about like traveling solo or hiking solo is that if something happens, there's nothing you can do. Like that's just the main thing out of the gate. Like,
Mhm.
oh gosh, if something happens, I'm completely helpless. And that's not true because again, we walk around with our body weapons 24/7 and there's many different things that we can do. We have many different options for our safety.
Mhm.
And so that's
Mhm.
one of the misconceptions that I try to just eliminate is remind people of our power, remind people of what we have available to us. And then
Right.
another misconception about traveling solo in particular is the idea that oh, actually hold on, I need to think about this for a second. It's another misconception. I spend so much time trying not to think about what people say about it that I just go out
Right.
and do it. Sometimes it's hard for me to think like, what's another misconception? What have you heard of a misconception of solo travel? Let's bust a myth. Let's bust another myth maybe that one of you've heard.
That's a good question for me. I just feel like it's kind of like up there with don't go out alone at night. You're gonna be, you're making yourself vulnerable, let's say. So why would you make yourself vulnerable? Why would you do such a thing? So it's kind of like there's that judgment on it, and I actually myself felt, honestly, like why would I'm a people's person, so I like to go wherever I go. I like to be with people, so I'd rather be with a friend. So my nature is to also ask that, like, what, that people are choosing to go out alone. Is it how do we get over that fear, really? I'm
Yeah, so
changing.
it's mostly just changing the ideas that we have about ourselves and our capacity to protect ourselves. That's really
Mm-hmm.
what it comes down to, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not more vulnerable solo hiking or solo
Mm-hmm.
traveling than we are in our own cities. I mean, just
Right.
the statistics will tell you that. And then I'm sure you know this, but in case our listeners don't, 80, at least in the US, 86% of the time women are assaulted by someone they know. It's
Right.
not that stranger they run into on a solo trip. It's a partner, a friend, an acquaintance, a
Right.
coach. It's somebody in their life that they know that has been able to use manipulation tactics to get
Mm-hmm.
closer to that person to then increase the person's vulnerability because this person now trusts the person who is now trying to perpetrate violence against them. Like that's how gender-based violence works. It's slow.
Mm-hmm.
The assailant and the perpetrator is slowly trying to break down the person's confidence, separating them from people they know, and establishing this idea of,
Isolating.
oh, you have to trust me, and but I care about you, and the gaslighting and the like, all of that compounds in, and those are the things that the assailant is using to try to make someone vulnerable. So
Mm-hmm.
just being out solo by yourself is not necessarily a dangerous thing. Like that's not, you're not necessarily vulnerable. I don't feel vulnerable when I'm out solo. I feel very sorry for anybody who would dare try to mess with me when I'm out solo, or even if I'm out with my friends,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just not something that I'm going to allow to happen. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do whatever I can to protect myself and to protect my friends in that moment, because I have that confidence and I know that I can use my voice and I know how to hold my body and I know what strategies I have available to me, and that's what gives me that confidence. And yes, there are never any guarantees, right? No matter what anybody has ever done or did to survive their situation, that is the right thing to do. And there is no guarantee. There isn't one thing that I can say that, oh, if you always do this, you're always going to be safe. That just doesn't work. And the same thing
Right.
with these misconceptions. You can't say, oh,
Right.
if you never take a solo trip, you'll always be safe. No, unfortunately,
Right.
that doesn't happen. That's definitely not how what happened to me. That had nothing to do with that, right? Same with
Mm-hmm.
Shannon. Her story had nothing to do with the fact that she wasn't out on a solo trip or went walking by herself. So all of these misconceptions and stereotypes and quote unquote rules that society tries to give us about, oh, don't go by yourself and don't wear those heels and don't wear your hair in a ponytail and make sure that you are in home by midnight or have someone walk you to your car. All these things, those aren't guarantees. They're just more restrictions on our life. They're just more things that we're supposed to think about to make us afraid, in my opinion.
Wow.
And instead of giving people a list of don'ts and this fear, I want to
Mm-hmm.
give people empowerment. I want to give them options and choices. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, please do. I wanted to get to that. A few success stories with all this experience also in the outdoors and also through your travels. I'm sure you have tons of stories to tell, more stories to tell
Yeah.
us.
I have so
Please.
many stories. I want to share. I'll share two. So the first one is just kind of what we were just talking about. Someone on social media at some point made a video and said, women shouldn't go to the gas station past 8 o'clock at night. You just shouldn't. That's when bad things happen. And I remember looking at that and I was like, how limiting to our life do you want to get? And here's the thing, I'm going to go to the gas station whenever I need to go. And, I travel a lot for work. Now, let's say I'm staying in, and this just recently happened. I was staying at a hotel that was about an hour from the airport and I had a 5 a.m. flight. So I had to wake up from my hotel at like 2, drive, or 3, leave at 4, get to the city where the airport was. And guess what time it is? Now it's like 4 a.m. And guess what you have to do to your rental car before you return it? You have to fill it up. So are they saying that we're supposed to just abide by these arbitrary rules and just never? So does that mean I don't ever travel by myself? I don't ever travel for work? What happens to my livelihood and my freedom and my independence if now I have to abide by these certain rules or laws, or I can't go by myself? No, that's not the world that we are going to be living in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that gas station at 4 a.m. because it has to be done. And if I get to that gas station and I notice someone creepy or I just get a weird vibe, I'm going to drive to a different gas station. And that's what empowerment self-defense allows you to do. It allows you to live your life and do what you want and make decisions in the moment to keep yourself safe versus just saying, oh, don't ever do these certain things. And that's where the power comes from. And then the second story I wanted to share is actually a success story of what happened to me in Madrid just in December of last year. And I was traveling for the holidays with a friend. So I wasn't even solo, right? It was not even that late at night. We didn't have purses on us. And we called an Uber to take us back to our hotel. We weren't even walking. So all the don'ts that people would say, we weren't even doing any of those things, right? We had applied by the quote unquote rules. And so what happened is we left the restaurant on Christmas Eve, no doubt. Christmas Eve, we leave the restaurant, walk to where the car is going to pick us up, and we waited until the car was just a few minutes away, so we wouldn't have to wait outside long. There's still street lights, there's still people walking, and we get to the place where the car is going to meet us, and I just got this feeling, like this, my intuition just said something's not right. And I turned to my friend and I said, something's not right, we need to get out of here. And she says, yeah, the Uber's coming. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I'm also wanting you to know right now that something feels off. And I couldn't place it. And I have my head on a swivel, I'm looking around. We see these headlights, the car comes, we check the license plate, it's our car. My friend gets into the car, into the back seat, but before she finishes getting in and before I can get in behind her, I noticed movement to my right side. And I turned my head and there was a man who was just running at me, just charging at me with this hard look on his face.
Wow.
And in that moment, I had a split second to decide what to do. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get in the car and close the door before he reached us. And there was nowhere for me to run to, right? Like there was I'm in an unfamiliar city at night where I don't know where anything is. Where am I going to run to, right? And am I going to be able to outrun him? Or is he just going to bypass me and then dive into the back seat that now is completely unblocked? And so what I did is I did what I teach in Girls Fight Back, and what Impact teaches is turning around in my ready stance. And I just figured if I have to fight this man, I'm going to fight him head on. He's not going to attack me from behind. And so I just turned around like this and I said, hey, what's going on? And he stopped. He just stopped and he looked at me. And my friend was asking me what's going on. And I told her there's somebody that's trying to get in the car and I don't know what to do. And so she stayed in the car, and then I had to stay where I was because I was the only thing between him and her. And so I just faced him and I just tried to be really calm. And he was like clenching his fist and like, walking back and forth like this. And I just kept him in front of me. And I again said, what's going on? And yeah, I know a little Spanish, but my Spanish just went completely out the window in that moment. I wasn't even thinking about trying to,
for sure,
to say it in the language. I don't know if he understood me, but I was confident body language. And then he never got closer to me, but it seemed like he got angry. I'll never understand. He never said a word. First of all, he never said a word. He never asked for money. He never answered my question. He was silent the whole time. And he never got closer to me. But what he did is he leaned back and he kicked up like he was trying to kick me in my face. But my hands were up. And so all he did was he kicked my open palm. If my hand wouldn't have been there, he would have kicked me in my face. He would have kicked me in my collarbone. It would have been not good, not great. But he only kicked my open palm. And the moment he made contact with me, 2 men ran from the side, bystanders. The Uber driver finally got out because everyone, I guess, was just frozen, trying to figure out what was happening. And granted, I'm sure it only took a few seconds. You know, in my head, it feels like it's going on for a long time, but it's probably just seconds. And they rushed at him. And during that commotion, I ran around the back of the car and I got in on the other side. My friend closed her door. I closed my door. And then a few seconds later, the driver came back and we drove to safety. And I remember the driver asking, like, what did you do? What did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What did I do? This man, like, you saw us. We just walked up to your car and he attacked me. I didn't do anything. But what I did do is I stopped him from attacking me and my friend anymore. And neither of us had to actually physically fight. And that's what got us out of the situation. And it just reinforced to me why I do this work, because I knew what to do. I knew what my options were. But say it was somebody else who didn't have this training and didn't know what to do. What would their options have been? They would have been limited because they didn't have the same education that I had. And that's why I want everyone to have this, so that, you know, we never know when we may be faced with violence. And it could come from a stranger, which this happened to be a stranger, which is not the norm, right? But it happens, obviously. It could come from someone you know, someone you're dating, your partner, a friend. It doesn't matter where it comes from or who it comes from, but it's possible that we might experience it at some point in our life. And until we live in a world where there is no more violence, knowing that we have options for how to respond if and when it happens is powerful. That's a gift, to know that we can still take care of ourselves, even in a situation where otherwise it might feel out of control. Like, we still can take these steps to live a more powerful life. And we got home, we got back to the hotel, we talked about it. The next day was Christmas Day, and, you know, everything's closed. So we just stayed in and watched movies all day. So that was nice. And then we continued our trip. I went on a solo hike 2 days later. The last day of our trip, we were in Barcelona, and my friend had to go home early, and I walked around the whole city and then into the night by myself. That incident did not stop me from living my life, because I knew that I had the skills to respond if something else like that were to happen. But I also know how unlikely it was that it would happen again. Right? Like, it's that fear of, okay, if it happens, it might happen again. And it might at some point in my life, right? But I knew that I still am going to live my life. I'm still going to do the things that I want to do, knowing that I have that education behind me to back it up.
Wow, what a powerful story. That's incredible, because really you're walking inspiration to me and to women and girls and individuals around the world. First of all, I bless you with tremendous success, that you continue to reach anybody and everybody. We all need to know, to have it, to internalize, obviously the 5 principles of think, yell, run, fight, tell, everything, to teach us that one of your messages on your t-shirt had the quote of, I am worth fighting for. And I would, in addition to that, I would say, and I can fight my own fight in a sense, like you. When we have the tools, we can face these situations, and find the right choices and make the right choices in circumstances that aren't always ideal. And I just have a few more minutes, and I wanted to just ask you how people can reach out, and if there's anything else that we missed that you want to share, anything you'd like to promote, please feel free.
Yeah, I would love to have people go to my YouTube channel. It's Nicole Snell Outdoor Defense, and subscribe. And I have 60 episodes of Outdoor Defense, so you can catch up on all of those. You can visit me on my website, NicoleSnell.com, and you can find out about all the different programs I offer. There's also videos on there, all my past podcasts and articles that I've written. I have a blog up as well. So if you want to learn more, I have some free resources up there as well. And I have a outdoor defense episode list compiled now, so that if you're not sure what topic you want, you can just download this document and look at the topic, and you can go right to the YouTube video to watch the episode that you want. Thanks. I wanted to make it easy for folks.
Yeah, you're
and
making
then
it
I'm
great.
also, oh, thank you. And then let's see what else. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, which I'm sure the links are going to be here in the show notes. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok. So I'm on all the social media platforms. And you can always just shoot me an email if you have any questions. And if you'd like me to come and speak to or train your organization, I also, in addition to talking about, self-defense and empowerment and sexual assault prevention, I also talk about DEI topics. As a Black woman, there is a lot of information that I can share about navigating the world as a Black woman and how to, help an organization be more inclusive and understand how important representation is. So I can talk about all of those as well. I also do motivational talks about my own entrepreneurial journey, starting from production and ending with owning a company, which is all really interesting. So I just am really passionate about helping people live their best life and not feel like you have to abide by limits or make your world small in order to be safe. I want people to live their life on their terms.
Amazing. Thank you again, Nicole Snell. Thank you to all our listeners and our guests. We would love to hear from our listeners of the Change the Culture podcast. Feel free to email me at annie.orenstein@mypower.co.il. That's mypwr.co.il. Pop over to the Change the Culture Facebook group and share your thoughts, questions, and success stories with us. And you're more than welcome to catch up on our last episodes where we had on the show Judith Siddickman, CEO of My Power and founder of El Halev NEST Global. We had on Arlene Lemus, the first gold medalist in Taekwondo, and who's also the CEO of PAVE Prevention, and so many other amazing women and individuals from around the world who are on the front lines. We're so excited to continue bringing ESC out into the world, and we want you to be part of the conversation and be part of the solution. So stay tuned for the next Change the Culture podcast, where we will hear from more professionals in the field of ESC around the world. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.